Hello! Today
we're going to be trying out Faber Castell Albrecht Durer watercolour pencils. Inside it comes with a little leaflet with information about the pencils and how to use them. Watercolour pencils can be used like regular colour pencils, but the whole point of them is that you can lay down the swatch of colour and then activate it with water and it becomes watercolour. There's also a list of all the colours they come in. On the pencil itself, it has a colour name, number, and light fastness rating, which are stars, which tell you how quickly the pigment fades if you leave it in direct sunlight. Okay, now let's start swatching. The colours are very vibrant and just feel really nice to use. If you're an artist, you know what I mean. They're just, like, good to use. There's a good selection of colours and they just overall feel really high quality, which, as you'd expect from Faber Castell's products. Although some colours were more vibrant than others. For each swatch, I laid down the colour in a gradient and went over with water. And also I tested how thin I could get the line using just the pencil without the water. I discovered that the light fastness of the colours were different to the light fastness of the polychromos colour pencils, which are my personal favourite art supply to use and are what I usually use on my channel. Although something I do like about Faber Castell's products is how they all use the same colour names. So you could find the exact same colour match in one of their other art supplies. So for me, who often uses Faber Castell's polychromos colour pencils, I find it's really helpful that I already know what colours that I like in the polychromos range, and I can find the exact same colours in the Albrecht Durer watercolour pencils. As well as the 12 set, I also got some open stock pencils of the colours I know that I'm going to use, as they're the ones that I often use with the polychromos. Now, let's put these pencils to the test in a full painting. I started by just laying down pigment for me to activate later, and basically just guessing how much pigment I'd need to get the colour looking as vibrant as I want it. Then I went over with water, but one area at a time, as I didn't want the colours to bleed into each other too much. After it dried, I could go back over with the pencils to darken the colour and add another layer of water. Then I moved on to colouring the iris, which It's probably the most fun part of colouring an eye because it's got so much detail and colour. I found out that you really don't need that much pigment on the paper to make a vibrant colour. A really good thing about these watercolour pencils that I found was how much quicker they are to use than watercolours, as you can get very bold saturated colours very easily. So this painting only took me about an hour and a half, which for me is like not that long at all, because usually I spend at least 6 hours on a realistic drawing. The iris needed some darker shadows, so I went back in with more pencil. I also used another technique where I drew a swatch of pencil on a scrap bit of paper and then wet it and just use it like regular watercolour paint. I do have regular watercolours, but it's quite interesting to try them in pencil form because it's discovering what works with watercolour pencils. Because although it is technically the same as watercolour, it is a medium on its own. I also at some point dipped the pencil straight into the water and then just used it like that, and it got me like a really, really bold colour. Then I finally added the eyelashes, which is when the drawing really started to pop. And the amazing thing about watercolour pencils is that you can use them to get really sharp small details, just like regular colour pencils. And the benefits to using the watercolour pencils for the details, rather than, let's say, some colour pencils over the top, is that with colour pencils you get quite a grainy result when working over the top of watercolours on watercolour paper. But with the watercolour pencils I found that it felt a lot smoother, and if there was any graininess I could just go back in with a little bit of water on my paintbrush and just smooth it out a bit. I got to a point in the painting where I just needed to darken some areas and add more colour to some others. So I just used the pencils without water like you'd use colour pencils. These pencils are amazing. I would totally recommend them if you're into watercolours or you want to start out with watercolours and want something that's maybe a bit easier for a beginner, because they are a lot easier to control than traditional watercolour paints. However, I would say that if you're a watercolour artist that wants to try something new, these are quite different to normal watercolours because you can't use techniques like wet on wet. But overall, these pencils are amazing. I would totally recommend them. And yeah. And finally, on to the final steps of the process. I got out a white Posca pen just to add some final bright white highlights.
And it is done. Now before you go, make sure to click that like button down below for more vids just like this. And press that notification bell for vids you surely won't want to miss. Okay, make sure to tune in for my next video. Guess I'll see you then. Bye!